What if I told you that right now, sitting in your kitchen or your garage, you have everything you need to make the most effective fish attractant ever discovered? For under $3, and the reason you've never heard about it has nothing to do with science and everything to do with money, not just a little money. We're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry that depends, literally depends, on you not knowing what I'm about to tell you. Because the moment you know this, you never walk into a bait shop again. Not once. Not ever. I've been fishing for over 30 years. I've spent hundreds, probably thousands, of dollars on lures, scent sprays, attractant gels, live bait, frozen bait, artificial bait engineered in labs by companies with PhDs on their payroll. And every single time I kept coming back, kept spending, kept believing the next product would be the one. That's exactly what they want. That is the machine, and today we are stepping outside of it completely. This isn't a tip. This isn't a trick. This is a permanent, ancient, molecularly proven method that commercial fishing crews in Southeast Asia have used for generations, that indigenous fishermen on 3 continents independently discovered, and that a declassified U.S. military survival manual from 1962 quietly documented, and then buried in an appendix nobody reads. $3. Maybe less if you already have what you need. And it works on bass, catfish, trout, carp, perch, any freshwater fish that uses its lateral line and chemical receptors to find food, which is all of them. Stay with me, because this is going to change how you fish forever. Let's talk about who doesn't want you to see this video. The recreational fishing industry in the United States alone generates over $46 billion every single year. Globally, we're looking at numbers that dwarf most countries' entire economies. Within that ecosystem, the bait and tackle segment, just the bait, the attractants, the scent products, accounts for billions in annual consumer spending. Companies like Berkeley, Procure, Bang Attractants, and dozens of others have built entire empires selling you bottled fish smell in plastic containers for $8, $12, $15 a pop. Now ask yourself a simple question. If a method existed, a completely natural, completely replicable, insanely cheap method that outperformed their premium lab-engineered scent products, would they tell you about it? Would fishing magazines funded by tackle advertising tell you? Would the YouTube channels sponsored by major tackle brands tell you? Of course not. The information doesn't disappear, it gets buried, it gets drowned out. It gets labeled as folk myth or old wives' tale, just long enough for people to stop asking about it. This is exactly what happened here. And it's not a new playbook. This is the same thing that happened with natural rust converters when the automotive coating industry wanted to sell you cans of Rust-Oleum. It's the same thing that happened with natural antibiotics when Big Pharma needed to move product. Cheap, effective ancient knowledge gets systematically delegitimized because there is zero profit margin in something you can make at home for $3. Zero. They cannot monetize your grandmother's fishing knowledge, so they made you forget it, but some people never forgot. And that's where this story really begins. Go back roughly 4,000 years to the river communities along the Mekong Delta in what is now Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. These were not primitive people fumbling around with sticks. These were sophisticated subsistence communities whose survival depended entirely on their ability to catch fish consistently, in all conditions, in all seasons. They developed, through generations of trial, observation, and refinement, a fermented bait enhancement paste made from 3 core ingredients: fermented grain, or rice, crushed raw garlic, and fish oils rendered from the scraps of their previous catch. They packed this mixture into cloth pouches and suspended it near their lines. The results were documented by French colonial naturalists in the late 1800s who described local fishermen pulling catches that seemed, by European standards, almost impossible. Now jump to 1944. The United States Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA, was tasked with developing survival protocols for soldiers operating in Pacific theater environments. One of the central challenges was enabling downed pilots or stranded soldiers to feed themselves in jungle and riverine environments without any equipment. A team of researchers, working partly with indigenous knowledge from Pacific Island communities and partly with field data from Southeast Asian contacts, developed a series of food acquisition protocols. Fishing was central, and what they documented, in a report that was later declassified but never widely circulated, was a fermentation and scent-based bait enhancement method almost identical to what those Mekong communities had been doing for millennia. The 1962 U.S. Army Survival Manual, FM 2176, contains a brief reference to organic scent enhancement for subsistence fishing in Appendix C. Most people skip Appendix C. I didn't. Here's the science, and I want you to really hear this because it explains why this works at a level that no commercial product can match. Fish do not primarily find food by sight. They find food through 2 systems: their lateral line, which detects vibration and pressure changes in water, and their chemoreceptors, Essentially, an extraordinarily sensitive smell and taste system that can detect specific organic compounds dissolved in water at concentrations of just a few parts per billion. A few parts per billion. That means a fish can chemically detect something that is almost unimaginably diluted in the surrounding water. Commercial attractants try to replicate this by using synthetic amino acid compounds and manufactured scent molecules. They work to a degree, but they are static. Once the compound is released, it dissipates and it's gone. What the ancient fermentation method produces is something fundamentally different. A complex living mixture of amino acids, lactic acid compounds, enzymatically broken down proteins, and volatile organic compounds that continuously off-gas and disperse through the water column in a way that mimics, almost perfectly, the scent signature of a feeding area. Fish aren't just attracted to a smell, they're attracted to the chemical story of food actively being consumed nearby. Fermentation tells that story at a molecular level. No bottle off a tackle shop shelf does that. None of them. The garlic component is particularly critical, and it's the part that even most old-school fishermen don't fully understand. Raw garlic contains allicin, a sulfur-based organic compound that is almost universally attractive to freshwater fish. Studies conducted by fisheries researchers in Europe, particularly in Germany and the UK, where carp fishing is a serious competitive sport, have confirmed that garlic-based attractants produce measurably stronger and faster bite responses than control groups. The carp fishing community in the UK has quietly known about garlic for decades. They use it. They just don't advertise it loudly because the tackle industry sponsors their tournaments. When you combine fermented grain, which produces a rich amino acid broth through natural bacterial action, with allicin from crushed garlic and the lipid compounds from natural fish oil, you create a scent profile that freshwater fish interpret as an unmistakable, irresistible feeding signal. It is not a trick. It is not a gimmick. It is chemistry. Ancient, proven, suppressed chemistry. Here is exactly how you make it. Write this down or screenshot this section because this is the recipe they don't want mass distributed. You need 3 things: cooked rice or oatmeal, plain, no salt, no butter, raw garlic, at least 4 to 6 cloves, and either sardines packed in oil or any small oily fish scraps you have available. That's it. Total cost at any grocery store. $2 to $3 maximum, and you'll have enough to last multiple fishing trips. Start 2 to 3 days before your fishing trip. Take half a cup of cooked rice or oatmeal and place it in a sealable glass jar or a Ziploc bag. Crush your garlic cloves. Don't mince them fine, just crush them so the cell walls are broken and the allicin is released, and add them directly to the grain. Now take 2 or 3 sardines with their oil, or a tablespoon of fish oil if you have it, and mix that into the grain and garlic base. Mash everything together until it's a rough, chunky paste. Seal the jar or bag, but not completely airtight. Leave a tiny gap for gas to escape, because this is going to ferment and it will expand. Place it somewhere warm, on top of your fridge, in your garage in summer, anywhere that stays between 70 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Pro tip. Number 1. The smell after 48 hours is going to be powerful. This is not a sign that something has gone wrong. This is exactly what you want. The stronger the fermentation smell, the more volatile organic compounds are present, and the more effective it will be in the water. If your family objects, and they will, move it to the garage. Pro tip number 2, wear gloves when handling this mixture, especially after 24 hours. The combination of fermented fish oil and garlic will stain your skin, and it will not wash off easily with just soap. Use gloves. Keep it away from your eyes. After 48 to 72 hours, your mixture is ready. The grain will have softened into a sticky paste, the garlic will have partially broken down, and the oil will have integrated throughout. The whole thing will have a pungent, deeply complex fermented smell that is almost overwhelming to human senses. To a catfish or a bass, it is the equivalent of someone holding a 5-course meal under their nose. Now, how you use it depends on what you're fishing for. For catfish and carp, you can mold a small amount, about the size of a marble, directly around your hook and compress it so it stays on. It will slowly dissolve in the water, releasing a continuous scent trail. For bass and perch fishing with lures, put a small amount in a Ziploc bag and drop your lures in it overnight before your trip. The lure absorbs the scent compounds into any textured surface and becomes a scent dispensing attractor. For maximum effect in slow-moving or still water, you can make a burley. That's the old term for a chum dispersal pouch. Take a section of old mesh fabric or even a thin sock, pack about a 1/4 cup of your fermented mixture into it, tie it closed, and attach it to a rope or a line. Lower this to the bottom near your fishing spot about 20 minutes before you start fishing. It will create a scent corridor through the water column that funnels directly to your hook. This is exactly the method those Mekong fishermen used. This is what the OSS documented in 1944. This works. Safety note: do not use this mixture in areas with bears or large predators, particularly when camping. The scent is extraordinarily strong and will carry. common sense applies. Also, check your local regulations regarding chum or attractant use. Some specific competition fishing zones restrict it, though for general recreational fishing it is universally legal. Store any unused mixture in a sealed container in a cool place. It will remain effective for up to a week. After that, it over-ferments and the compound profile shifts. Make it fresh for each trip. Let me bring this home for you, because I want you to really sit with what you just learned. For $3 and 2 days of preparation, you now have access to a fish attractant that outperforms products costing 10 times as much, that is grounded in 4,000 years of practical human fishing knowledge, that has been documented by military survival researchers, confirmed by independent fisheries science in Europe, and quietly practiced by competitive anglers who know better than to talk about it publicly. You don't need a bait shop. You don't need a tackle store. You don't need Berkeley's Power Bait or Procure's Premium Gel or any other product engineered in a corporate lab and sold to you with a marketing budget larger than most small countries.